Good evening, everyone. Although we may still have people coming in to be on time, just to share, as you know, because I recognize a lot of faces, we're going live on our city website and also on our local city channel 28. But because of the sensitivity with the subject matter, to make everyone comfortable with coming forward and asking questions, we will not be showing any of the audience. It'll just be ourselves up here at the podium because we want to make sure that everyone's comfortable to ask questions. But with that, Craig, our crime prevention officer, he will have a handheld microphone. And for the audio, if you could please be patient and wait your turn till you get the microphone handed to you by Craig. That way, again, your question can be heard, and this will help obviously educate the community for those that didn't come tonight. So we appreciate you coming. My name is Shelley Henson. I'm the Community Safety Supervisor for the Public Safety Office, and we're very fortunate tonight to have Deputy Dan Inez from our core team who will be doing the presentation, and you all know Craig from the Public Safety Office as well. So with that, we'll get started. And do you want to try and hold questions till the end?
Nope, not at all.
Okay, so if you have a question, just raise your hand and then just wait for Craig to hand you the microphone. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I am Deputy Dan Inez from Lancaster Sheriff Station. I'd just like to thank you all for coming tonight. I've been a deputy for about 10 years now. I've been assigned to Lancaster Station for about 6 years. And one of the reasons that we are giving this presentation tonight is to try to increase awareness for any type of sexual assault prevention. One of the things that we had noticed last year was obviously our crime for the city was down. I'm sure everyone has read it in the paper or has seen it on the news. Crime overall was down for the city of Lancaster. However, what we did notice was that rapes didn't seem to drop in the same fashion as far as the number of reported rapes that we had. So my team, the core team there at Lancaster Station, decided to do an inquiry into those rapes. And what I want to do this evening is give you just a little bit of information about what we discovered regarding those rapes. And then also I would like to cover date rape and a little bit of prevention that everybody can use. So I'll just jump right in here and just let you know, last year we had 68 reported rapes within the city of Lancaster. And because of that, we took one area of the city, which was the northwest portion of the city of Lancaster, and we decided to do a bit of an analysis to see, of all those reported incidents, what we were looking at. Obviously, when you just give a number, it's one thing, but when you look at each of these incidents individually, things change. So like I said, we did look at the northwest portion of the city, which covered 19 reported rapes for the northwest portion of the city last year. And with that, we noticed that 13 had only occurred during 2008. So that meant 6 of them had actually been reported from an incident that occurred prior to 2008. And one of those actually went back as far as 2000. So that we can see that sometimes people will delay or for their own reasons have not reported the incident. Of the 13 rapes in 2008, 5 cases were complete strangers. The act was committed by a complete stranger. For the cases, the suspect was an acquaintance of the victim. And another 4 of those cases, it was either committed by a family member, a friend, somebody that was definitely associated with the victim. Of the 4 cases where the suspect was an acquaintance, three of them involved the victim saying they had consumed alcohol prior to the incident. 2 of the cases involved, they stated they were afraid to report the incident due to repercussions or retaliation by the suspect. There were 3 cases of attempted rape also, in which the victims were followed by unknown male suspects who attempted to sexually assault them but were unable to complete the act due to the efforts of the intended victim fighting off their attacker. Of the 3 attempted rapes and the 5 cases of unknown suspects, there were no patterns, nothing similar to indicate that we were looking at a serial rapist or someone who just had a tendency to look for victims. There was no pattern that we could discover. So with that, there's a little bit of numbers. Anybody have any questions so far about the numbers? Mm-hmm.
Pardon me. Hey, right up to your mouth there.
Was there a time of day that prevailed, kind of?
There was no pattern whatsoever that we discovered. It happened at all different times of day. Depending on the type of the incident, some of them were in the evening, even during the day, and even in the middle of the night. There was absolutely no pattern. Yes?
Takes me a couple seconds to get over. There you go.
Of these reported rapes, what was the age range of the victims?
I don't have unfortunately, I don't have that, but I can tell you that because of the way that we report them, we know that our victims are going to be at least 14 years of age or older. Just the way that I've tracked what we have here. They're going to be 14 years of age or older for these numbers here. Any other questions so far? Okay, what we're going to do now is just have a little bit of education about rape and just go over a few things. If you turn your attention over to the screen, we'll get started. When we talk about rape, we say, well, what is rape? A lot of jurisdictions, different states, different countries, they may define it under different terms, but obviously here in California and obviously here in the South End, we discuss what rape is here. Rape is or sexual assault in those means involves force or non-consensual sexual acts. When we say a rape is usually a completed form of a sexual assault. When we describe it as just a sexual assault, that could be something along the lines of fondling, groping someone that comes by and make some unwanted sexual advance on you, and it becomes physical. That's when we talk about a sexual assault. Like I was stating, legal definitions, they vary across all the jurisdictions. The behaviors for unwanted sexual touching, to oral or anal sex, to vaginal penetration with a penis or another foreign object. Any of these types of acts will constitute some form of rape. What we describe in California as penetration with a foreign object, or the unwanted sexual touching we refer to as a sexual assault. In some jurisdictions, none that I'm aware of, but what we have here in California is the jurisdiction here does cover both men and women for sexual assault and for rape. When we refer to men, it's the actual legal definition is not rape. It's actually considered what's called sodomy. And obviously, we do know this, that marital rape is a crime in our country, and it still exists in other countries. And unfortunately, that doesn't exist in all countries. What is force or lack of consent? Now, when we talk about the type of means that are used for a suspect to commit the act of rape, we look at a few different possibilities of how that's done. One of them, the first one, is obviously by physical force. This is the one that everyone seems to be seeing. They see it on TV. They see it in movies where an unsuspecting person is walking along and suddenly they're attacked. That's a very common one. Any use of physical force to restrain. This also includes assault, battery, these types of physical force. Another form here is actually the threat. Threat of physical force is not uncommon, where it's just do what I tell you or I'm going to hurt you. Do what I tell you or this will happen to you. A lot of times it's just as good as force. The next one that we're going to look at here is incapacitation due to intoxication, mental illness, physical or intellectual disabilities. If you cannot have a conscious state of mind and give consent during a sexual act, it falls under these sexual assault and rape categories. Intoxication can include a lot of different forms. It could be what we would initially think of as alcohol. It also can go along the lines of any type of drugs. We often refer to as date rape drugs. And another form of intoxication is actually on prescription medication. How prevalent is rape in the United States? When we take a look at this is obviously covering women. 12% are adolescent girls, 20% are adult women, 15% of those are college women. And most of our victims are women. Most perpetrators are obviously by men. And again, most of them, usually the victim knows who the person is. Whether they know them very well or even just a little bit as they've met before. I've met them at a party. I've seen them before over at school. Somehow they are known, even if all the details about them are not known. We talk about social foundations for rape, and a lot of this will have to do with the actual country or even the area in which you live. Rape is more common in cultures characterized by male dominance and violence. Obviously, this is more here in the United States when we talk about the male dominance and violence. If it's a male-dominated society, whether it's either physically or just by tradition that a male is the head of the household, the dominant members of government, society, you're going to see that rape is going to be higher. And one of the reasons that we see that is rape is not necessarily, and usually is not, a characteristic of sexual desire. Rape is usually committed by those who are looking for power, control. And this is one of those, again, when we're looking at male dominance. It's for power, control. Even in some cultures here, as it states here, some cultures are actually a little more tolerant of it. It seems to be acceptable. Some people, when we look at non-traditional attitudes, it seems to be accepted in other countries. Obviously, here in our country, over the last years, there's been more and more education. This is not okay. It's not under any circumstances. Is it acceptable? This was an interesting little tidbit that I had read. This was actually news to me. Traditional men are more likely to report that they would commit rape if they knew they would not be caught. I mean, what does that speak? What does that say to us when men are willing to say, "Yeah, I'd rape somebody if I didn't get caught. If I didn't get in trouble, I'd go ahead and do that." When you talk about other countries and other cultures where they're not going to get into trouble or it's acceptable, that goes to show that when we talk about other countries, we can imagine how many are unreported or if it's a continual abuse problem. Traditional men more likely to commit rape. This is an interesting one. A husband is entitled to have sex with his wife. Well, no still means no. And in the United States, yes, men can be raped. And as when we look at this here, when we talk about marriage, just because they're married, if she says no, it's still no. It's still considered rape. And here, a woman who leads a man on deserves what she gets. Again, we're looking at an old type of mentality. It's an old idea that, yeah, she deserved it. Look at the way she was acting. Look at the way she was dressed. These are certain things that we'll get into further, how these type of things can be prevented. Consequences of the rape. It varies across for different people. When we talk about severe during the first week, diminished during the next 2 to 3 months, and then they plateau. This is what type of response the victim's going to have over time. Obviously, just having to deal with what has happened, and this includes men and women. Victims do not recover from rape. And when they say this, no, they don't. Why? Because it's something that is always going to follow them for the rest of their lives. It's a traumatic incident that has occurred and will continue. We've even seen some instances of what's defined as post-traumatic stress disorder that continue for the rest of their lives. Some of the continued or long-term I guess we can call them what continues to be felt by our victims, fear, anxiety, phobias, any of these things, feelings of guilt. Maybe I did something to deserve this. Maybe this was my fault. Lower self-esteem, problems with trust and social adjustment. Sometimes adjusting back into society after what has occurred can be a very difficult thing. This is also very interesting. Acquaintance rape and stranger rape. The consequences are the same. The same type of feelings, anxiety, repercussions that they feel about themselves continue for both types. And then when we look here, rape by a friend, partner, or spouse involves a violation of trust. Usually these people, we're going to trust them. We believe that you are safe with this person. When suddenly they find the means or the motive to change that. And here when we look here, rape by a friend, partner, or spouse is likely to occur repeatedly, often accompanied by battery. When we say that it's going to repeatedly occur, if there's one incident and it is left unchallenged, unprosecuted, unreported, again we're looking back to what the one statement that said, if I don't get caught, if I don't get in trouble, I'd be willing to rape. When this right here we talk about repeatedly, if they're unreported, it's likely to continue. The consequences for men are similar to those for women. You're going to feel the same types of emotions, the same thing. Possibly the guilt, the fear, anxiety, adjusting back into society over what has happened. Men can be raped by women. This has occurred. And men are not believed and ridiculed. Sometimes that's the case. How can a man can be raped? Well, it doesn't have to be just by force. Remember, we talk about drugs. We talk about forms of intoxication. It is definitely possible. And we also talk about, when we say rape, when men are not believed, it could be it was committed by another man. That can also occur. So these type of things we obviously got to keep in mind. When we're looking at here, active defense strategies are more effective than passive ones, but it can also lead to greater battery. Defending yourself. Maybe that sexual assault does come, that type of assault. And this doesn't just have to be for a sexual assault. Maybe this is a form on the street of a robbery. These defensive strategies, they could help you. Prevent it, stop it from occurring or continuing. But this is also that possibility. It can lead to greater battery. Maybe they're going to use more force than what they started with to, again, try to gain that compliance from you. And then when we look back, we're looking at this problem here, the gender role, socialization. What role does the man have in society? What is he looking at? Is the bullying acceptable? And the power and control is obviously that's the biggest thing when it comes to rape. It's power and control over other people. I think that's going to do it for that portion. I just want to go over just a quick moment, kind of review a couple of things about rape in California. We say rape, and for these purposes here, it encompasses a large number of possible types of crime. Rape, we know, which is defined in our penal code, we have a man committing a sexual act of penetration against a female, a vaginal penetration. We also have those what are called penetration by a foreign object. And this could be on a man or a woman, where you have a foreign object could be anything. Anything from a finger to another type of object, a stick, anything that is obviously not what it was intended for. That type of penetration, we have penetration by a foreign object. We also have sodomy, which can happen to a man or a woman, and that's a penis in the anus of a man or a woman. So that's what we're looking at. And we're also going to talk about sexual assault. It can be both ways again. It could be a man on a woman, a man on a man. There is no set rule that says these crimes cannot happen against a man or these crimes cannot happen against a woman. It's the way that we define them for legal purposes, but the act itself can be committed for both. Any questions so far? I'll keep going here. I still want to cover what you see up on the screen, which we're getting set up here in regards to rape drugs, where you're talking about intoxication. These are some interesting ones. And then also, I want to make sure everyone sees on the back here, it's a dater's Bill of Rights. We notice that date rape of some form or another, whether we classify it as date rape, is a big issue. And one of the reasons is date rape is something that you can do to, you can prevent. You can take steps to keep yourself out of situations where a rape may occur. Are you able to? There you go. Okay, we'll go right into the date rape drugs here. What we're going to see here, these are the big four, and you'll have to excuse me because I'm not very good with these technical definitions of some of these. But GHB, Rufinol, ketamine, MDMA. We look at GHB here. Here's a short picture of it. Here's what we know them on the street as, and obviously what we see here, liquid ecstasy. What is it? What is GHB? This was interesting. GHB is basically force stripper and drain cleaner. So when we talk about drugs, this is about poison, more than a drug. Often made in bathtubs, minimal controls of sanitation mixtures when they're making these things. This is what they're using. Don't ask me to pronounce that. I'm not very good with that. I'm sorry. Forms: liquid, ice cubes, and powder. How easy would it be to use these types of drugs against you? It's in a liquid form. Pour it in a drink. Ice cube, same thing. There it is. It can be frozen. And obviously in a powder form, that can just be, again, slipped in a drink. The number one way that these date rape drugs are delivered is always by liquid, is the easiest way. Some of the effects here. Drowsiness, unconsciousness, knock you right out. You'll be completely unaware of what's going on. Mimics alcohol intoxication. If it's mixed with alcohol, they add some of the GHB in there. What does it look like? It looks like you're even more drunk. Oh, she's just drunk. She's just drunk. And some of the other side effects are nausea, seizures, severe respiratory depression, and even coma. It's a poison. What you need to know about GHB: colorless, nondescript odor, slightly salty taste. Something to think about. My drink doesn't taste right. Traceable in blood for 48 hours, so it can be discovered, and it can be in the urine for 12 to 15 hours. 1 teaspoon can render you unconscious, so it doesn't take very much, just a small amount. Rohypnol, I think am I saying that right?
Rohypnol.
No. As I always called it, roofies. Here's some other known names here: roaches, rope, Mexican Valium. What is it? I can't pronounce it again. Powerful, sedative, and hypnotic. The forms comes in tablets, injectables. It can be swallowed or injected. Here's the biggest one: amnesia. You're going to forget. Even if you're conscious, you may not remember what's going on. Feeling of extreme intoxication, impaired judgment, deep sedation, respiratory distress, blackouts lasting up to 24 hours. You wake up 24 hours later and not remember anything that has occurred. What you need to know about it: dissolves rapidly. It's tasteless, odorless, colorless. The manufacturer is now adding blue color that appears to be mixed with a liquid. Effects can be felt within 10 minutes. It doesn't take very long. Ketamine. Some other known: Special K. That's what I always hear it as. What is it? An injectable animal tranquilizer. They use this on large animals. They use this on horses, cows, these types of large animals. That's where you can see it. Comes in powder, pills, or liquid, snorted, swallowed, or injected. Again, same thing: amnesia, delirium, impaired motor function, high blood pressure, respiratory problems. There's drugs. And MDMA. Anybody take a guess on what's this kind of indicating what it might be? Ecstasy. Common drug. We've all heard of a rave, these parties, right? This drug was actually the most popular form. And again, that's another big old name that I can't pronounce properly. I'm sure there might be somebody in the room that can do that.
We'll have a spelling test at the end.
Yes. And again, look at, this is the biggest thing. There's no medical use for it. This wasn't something that had a legitimate purpose and was modified or used for these purposes. But this one here, no medical use whatsoever. It's a designer or rave drug, big for raves. The forms here, powder, capsules, imprinted tablets of any shape and color. Most of the time when people think of ecstasy, they're going to think of a tablet. It's going to have some type of design, different color, something fancy like that are the most common. Here are some of the effects. General feelings of peace and happiness, sensory enhancement. One of the interesting points here, teeth grinding. If anyone's seen pictures or stories about raves where they have pacifiers are a big thing. You're looking at for teeth grinding to help prevent that. And then obviously some of the other terrible side effects, dehydration, exhaustion, lapses in memory. Again, we're looking at the same thing, that lapse in memory. Some pictures. Obviously here again, we're looking at that pacifier. Sometimes in liquid form, it's just placed on the pacifier itself. The pills just ingested, big party drug. Big party drug. And what's the number one reported rape drug? Got it. Alcohol. Why? It's easy to get. Just about everybody drinks in some amount. And some people don't seem to control themselves as best as others. 90% of all campus rapes occur when alcohol has been used by either the victim or the assailant. Now, when we look at our victim has been drinking, not aware of what's going on, unable to fight off, but it's also, what do we some people call alcohol? An inhibition inhibitor. It's going to make them a little more brave, maybe even willing to do this type of act when under normal circumstances without any alcohol or anything in their system, they wouldn't be willing to do this. As many as 70% of college students admit to having engaged in sexual activity, primarily as a result of being drunk. Again, inhibitions drop, so do the clothes. Or having sex with someone they wouldn't have had sex if they had been sober. Some of those effects. What happens? 1 plus 1 doesn't equal 2 anymore. 1 plus 1 started equaling different. There's no more rhyme or reason once all of a sudden you start drinking. People can, some in the room I'm sure can attest to this, but it is one of, it's the number one rape drug that's out there. It's alcohol. What can you do? Listen for the street names of drugs. Maybe you're out somewhere and you hear somebody talking about certain drugs. This is a big one right here, especially for those that are going to be out, is don't leave your drink unattended. Doesn't matter what type of drink it is. It doesn't have to be an alcoholic drink. It could be a glass of water. It could be a water bottle that you're drinking from. Again, remember some of these drugs, colorless, odorless. It doesn't take a large amount. It won't even be seen. Don't accept open drinks from strangers. Make sure that you see where the drink is coming from. You know who it's coming from. Some of the drugs do have that taste. One of our drugs obviously gives a little bit of a salty taste to it. Again, if it looks funny, smells funny, tastes funny, get rid of it. Get a new drink. If you or a friend feeling over-intoxicated, even after a small amount of alcohol, there's a possibility that some of these drugs may have been used. And don't assume that your friend will just sleep it off. If they exhibit these type of effects, extreme intoxication, even though they didn't maybe drink as much, would normally get them to this state, something to monitor, definitely something to watch.
And can I just add, Deputy Inez, and it doesn't matter if you're an adult or you're trying to educate your teenagers, especially when they go off to college. We've all heard stories, but let them know that, because if they're all out, and let's just say there's a group of girls, teach them to not say, oh, well, she's with Joe and he'll take care of her, even if it's someone they know, because if the girl has been drugged, then, and they think, oh, well, he'll just take her home, she'll sleep on the couch and sleep it off. Well, no one's going to know for sure what can happen. So make sure you're educating your teenagers, and I'll talk more about it at the end, but we have several handouts, and even though we're not handing out this PowerPoint, everything that we're handing out does give information on the drugs and a lot of what we're showing you in the PowerPoint. So I just wanted to add that.
Let's see.
I still don't know what that picture is.
Not exactly sure what the picture was for,
Yeah.
but
We apologize.
okay. That was it. Any questions so far, especially in regards to date rape or anything in regards to the drugs, at least?
And let me just make another note. We had a few people come in late because of the sensitivity. We want to make sure that you're comfortable coming forward and asking questions. Your picture, because we are live on the website tonight, the city website, and on our local city channel 28. The cameras are only up here on us. So if you ask a question, we will only hear your voice on microphone, but your picture will not be, you will not be on camera. So I just want to emphasize that again so you're comfortable asking any questions.
There you go. Here, speak in the mic. There you go.
I saw with the Rohypnol where it talks about how long it stays in your system and can be tested by blood or urine. Is that fairly average for the other drugs also? How soon should they get to be tested if they suspect that?
There's probably somebody in the room that could probably answer that question a little bit better than me, if you don't mind.
Yeah, let's have the microphone. Thank you.
I know the GHB, up to the 48 hours in the urine, but the majority of them, like Rohypnol, is out of the blood in sometimes 8 hours, longer in the urine. But typically, I was going to say, because I do the exams at the hospital, the majority of our patients that come in suspecting some kind of drug-facilitated assault, it's been past the time limit where we could find Rohypnol or GHB in the blood. So that's one of the unfortunate consequences, that by the time they wake up and realize something went wrong, it's already too late.
Any other questions at the moment? Okay. We're going to talk a little bit now about prevention. And this type of prevention I want to talk about first is just it's common sense prevention, even how it's not related to sexual assault of any form. And this type that we see when we worry about being attacked by a stranger. And this is the type of prevention. And it's just some common sense personal safety tips. We'll start with at home. We worry about somebody breaking into our house, doing something to us. Make your home as safe as possible. Make sure you lock your doors, you lock your windows. If possible, install some form of a security system. Make sure there's a lot of lighting around your house. Try to make it look like somebody's home at all times, even if it's more than one person home. If I know these days we all want to try to save some electricity, but leaving that radio on or a TV on in another room or a light, maybe even switching the lights on to timers, things like this. Making it look like, one, that you are that somebody is home and that you're not home alone is also going to be a big thing. Sometimes some of our crimes that occur in homes can occur even if the assailant or criminal thinks there's only one person home. Maybe perhaps I can overpower one person. Maybe it's just the lady's home and it's not the 6'4" husband that's home right now. Someone that they can overpower.
Can I just add, in addition to that, as he's saying, make your house look active even when you're not there, putting lights on timers, or if you are home, have one light, whether it's a timer or you turn it on yourself, let's say in the living room, and then maybe 10 or 15 minutes later have a light come on near the back of the house, or if you have a 2-story upstairs. So if someone is watching from the outside, it looks like there's movement on the inside. But in addition to that, just a side note, when I was in college, I was given a very good tip by an officer. I didn't grow up here, but basically so many times we call our friends and you get voicemail these days because we're all so busy. Don't say, "Hi, you've reached Shelley. Please leave your name and number and I'll call you back." You never want to let on that you live by yourself. I don't even say my name on my voicemail. I just say, "Please leave a name and number and we will call you back as soon as possible." You don't want to identify yourself. That's also a tip for identity theft purposes. But if you are single or you live by yourself, you don't have to give your name. You don't have to repeat your phone number, and you certainly don't want to let people know you live by yourself.
Next, we'll talk about one of the key things in the flyer, definitely in the back, preventing sexual assault. So don't walk into danger. And some of this, it may seem common sense, but a lot of times we don't even think of these things. And one of the biggest things about this is thinking about these things before you go out and do them. When you're traveling at night or you're going anywhere, maybe you're going to the store, you normally do things at night anyways. Try to do it not by yourself. Try to have a friend, somebody with you. Go to places, if you have to conduct business at night, that's well lit, well traveled, lots of people. You don't want to go to the store at the end of town that has only one light in the parking lot and there's only one person working inside the store. That's not the type of place you want to subject yourself to if you don't have to. When you look like a victim, like we could say it, the chances of you becoming a victim are much higher. Like it says in here, walk confidently, look around, make eye contact with people. You don't have to stare them down, but make eye contact with people so that they know that you're acknowledging their presence, that yes, I know you're there.
And it's important to do that because even if you're scared on the inside, the point that you're making eye contact, that lets that person know that you've seen them. And certainly if something does happen, how are you going to be able to give a description if you're looking off to the side or you're looking down? You might be able to say what their shoes look like, but you're not going to be able to give the deputy a description. So you want to look them in the eye because, again, it's a sign of confidence, even if you're scared on the inside, but you're able to look at them to get a visual description, but also let them know that they have seen that you have seen them. And another tip I got years back, I took a self-defense class, and one thing, and it was for all females, and the instructor told us, not only look them in the eye when they're coming towards you, but if you do, and remember we need to listen to our gut instinct, or if your hair goes up on the back of your neck, if you do feel that they are possibly looking at you for a reason or coming at you, if as they pass you, not only look at them in the eye, but after they pass, turn around and let them, if they look back, and you look at them after they've passed, then that's a second opportunity to let them know that you certainly have seen them. And again, it gives you a second opportunity to get more of a description.
Also, when we're talking about at night, some of these obviously do apply during the daytime, maybe in the evening, early mornings, not as many people out. But avoid, if you go out for a walk or you're again conducting whatever business of your day, avoid those areas where it looks like someone may be hiding. Avoid alleyways. Avoid walking through areas that have high bushes and something where somebody could hide. You want to avoid these type of areas, especially dark places. Again, we talk about avoid any of these types of places. If you think you're being followed, immediately go to a place where it's well lit, where there's going to be a lot of people. Even if, unfortunately, you have to waste an extra 2 minutes out of your time to be safe, it's worth it. Take that extra minute. You're going to walk outside of the store, let's say. Have your keys in your hand ready to go before you go out. Don't stop at your car and then look for your keys, then try to find your keys. If you have your remote to unlock the doors, don't unlock them when you were the farthest away from your car. It should be the last thing that you do is unlock your car. And what that does is perhaps someone is waiting, mixed among the cars, waiting for someone to click their car. And then it takes you an extra 20 seconds or so to get to your car. They can find out who's walking to that car.
And it may seem like it couldn't happen, but let's say as he's describing, you push that button on your keychain, you open your your doors and you're still a good distance away, and then you immediately, let's say you've got a basket full of groceries. You go to put your groceries in the back in the trunk, but yet your doors are open. If someone is waiting, hiding, squatting down low on that other side of your car, without you even knowing, because you're busy filling your trunk and the trunk is, or the hood is up, they could quietly get into your vehicle and you may not even know it. So before you push that button, you should be checking your front and back seats to make sure that no one's in your car and that you don't see anyone on the other side.
One of the biggest things that was an interest that I learned years ago was if you're being attacked, don't yell help. A lot of people turn a blind eye to what's going on out in the world. They don't want to be involved. They're not interested. However, the one thing that everybody cares about and everybody's interested in, always willing to help, is a fire. Yelling the word fire instead. People come running when there's a fire. It sounds strange, but if somebody yells that there's a fire, everybody goes, there's a fire? Where? They want to go see. They want to see what's going on. But if someone's yelling help, some people, especially those that don't want to be interested, they don't want to get involved, things may always happen around where they're at, they may turn a blind eye. So something to keep in consideration. Don't yell help. Perhaps you may want to yell fire.
Or yell, stay away from me, I don't know you. We tell parents to teach their kids, and again, another side note, but just to do a quick comparison, we educate parents to teach their kids, if they're approached by a stranger, say, you're not my mommy, you're not my daddy. Well, obviously, as adults, we're probably not going to say that. But the point is, like he's saying, you want to say something that will draw attention because, unfortunately, as he's saying, you yell help and people don't want to get involved. And it's a very sad note on our society. So whatever you think will work for you other than yelling help, and you should do role-playing in your mind so that, God forbid, if that ever happens, you're prepared and you know what to say if that moment ever occurs.
Again, when we talk about safety, car safety, especially when we're conducting business or just going to the store, if you're going to be walking out of the store, and it may be in the evening or late night hours, and as you begin to walk out the door and you notice that there's nobody else in the parking lot, there's nothing wrong with waiting an extra minute and walking out when there's more people. When there's more people, when there's witnesses, you're gonna be less likely of a victim if someone's watching.
And Go ahead. There's power in numbers. Maybe Deputy Inez and I, let's say, as he's describing, we may not know each other, but we happen to be walking out of the store at the same time, and we happen to be walking headed the same direction. Right now, I'm not really in his personal space, but even if I'm this far away, and there could be one or two other people, and we could all be about the same distance from each other, but again, it still would be considered a group because we're still in close enough proximity. And if you still don't want to walk out, then ask for an escort. Ask them if you're at a grocery store. Ask the store manager or one of the, baggage girls or, guys. Or, if we have some places in town where we have some deputies. It just depends on where you're at. But the best thing to do, especially shopping as an example, always be with a buddy. And I know sometimes we can't always do that, but it's always to be at least in pairs, if not more than two of you.
Okay. And again, if you are walking somewhere and you feel like you're being followed while you're walking, go to some place that's well lit. Go to where there's a lot of people. Go inside of another open business. Make sure if you walk inside of a business, that you make contact with somebody on the inside. Make sure that whoever may be following you knows that they're no longer alone now. There's more people. Even if it's just one more person, there's more out there. And if it comes down to you're driving and you think you're being followed, follow the same type of guidelines. Go to a place where there's going to be more people. If you need to conduct more business or do more shopping or whatever it may be, you might want to choose maybe a different store, given the time of day. Choose a place that's going to be, again, well lit, lots of people. And perhaps if you're headed home and you're not comfortable going home, drive to a populated place, drive over to the police station, sheriff's station, drive to a fire station, someplace where you know there's going to be people there and that will be willing to watch and say something.
And if you can't make it to the sheriff's station or to a fire station, or you're not sure where there is one, first of all, another tip is if you're able to, and I realize if it's at nighttime you may not be able to get a description of the vehicle behind you, but you can still call the sheriff's department and let them know what direction you're headed. And if you can choose a place such as a gas station or a grocery store and say, I have had this car, I truly believe that this car is following me. They have followed me now for X number of miles. Every time I turn and I've done some quick rights and lefts, they've been following me. They're on my tail. I can't make it to the station, but I'm headed to, such and such grocery store, and I'm headed north on, whatever street. And if you can't make it to a grocery store, and when you pull in, don't just pull in like you're parking to go shopping. You pull right in front where people are coming in and out, and it's well lit. Another option is a gas station. And again, you don't pull in like you're going to get gas. You pull up right in front of the little mini mart, because remember, in gas stations, most of the cash registers are right there at the window. So that's another place. You pull right up in front. If you have to, you lay on the horn, and people are coming and going, and there's a lot of lights. But if you can let the sheriff's station know what direction you're headed, that way they can meet you there if you're not able to get to the station.
Any questions so far? Okay, I just want to get into the last portion of our topic here today, and this is going to be date rape or rape by someone known to you, an acquaintance. An interesting, again, covering what we already talked about, but someone cannot consent to sex, one, if they are under the age of 18. Anyone under the age of 18 cannot consent to having sex. If they are incapacitated or physically helpless while under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Again, it doesn't have to be, we say drugs, it doesn't have to be some illegal form. It could be prescription medication. If they are, let's face it, we've all probably had a little bit of NyQuil, and if we drink a little bit too much of the NyQuil, we start to get a little sleepy, maybe even a little lightheaded. Any types of these things can impair your ability to make that decision. If they're unconscious, asleep, physically helpless, or unable to communicate, to say yes or no, it's the same thing. Just because they didn't say no, that doesn't mean they're saying yes. Also, again, we discussed earlier, suffering from a mental disease or defect that they cannot consciously make the right decision. Did you have something there?
Oh, once you're done.
Oh, okay. One of the things when we were reviewing all of these rape reports, and my partner and I, we actually read all of these reports, one of the things that came from a lot of these had to do with alcohol, some form of a drug, some form of a party, or some type of outing, maybe a club, a bar, those type of situations. They really stood out in my mind. One of the reasons was a lot of these situations that the ladies were describing were definitely preventable from either themselves or someone that they were with could have helped them make the right decision. First of all, when we talk about date rape, we are concerned a lot of times. What we have seen is maybe certain females are unwilling to say no. They don't want to feel guilty. They're pressured into saying yes. But what we want to do is remember, it is okay to say no. It doesn't have to be. If someone is not ready or unwilling to have sex, that's it. There's no other questions about it. And no, again, like we always say, what we always hear and what we always read, no means no. And it doesn't have to be repeated. It has to be said once. No. One of the interesting things that I saw was a few of these were from I guess, a bar or a club, however we want to describe it. Ladies were going to these clubs, obviously never alone. They would always go with other people. But at some point during the evening, their person that they had gone with seems to disappear out of the picture. Whether it's intentional, unintentional. There was even one incident where one woman had gone with just one other friend, had started to drink, I think it was on the second drink, walked away from their drink, came back, finished their drink, and I think it was actually before they finished the drink, the next thing they remember is waking up in the parking lot in their car. When we look at some of these drugs, it only takes us that small amount. Again, when we go out and whether we are out on a date or out in a club, someone for you to watch over and someone to watch over you. Even if it's someone who is an acquaintance. When we talk about acquaintance or maybe even a date, how well do you really know the person that you're with? We go out to clubs, we go out to bars, we start to talk to people, maybe become a little social, start making friends. But again, just because they're friendly, that doesn't mean they have the best of intentions. And a lot of these are, I guess we could say, we can prevent them by thinking ahead of time. No, I'm not going to leave my friend's side tonight, no matter what happens. My friend's not going to leave my side tonight, no matter what happens. Some of these decisions have to be made consciously ahead of time.
And in addition to that, too, and again, going back to my college days, which have been a while back, but also, whether, again, we're adults or you're teaching your even sons and daughters, because we've seen the facts earlier in the presentation, should always let someone else know where you're going that night. So if I was going out, let's say tonight, and whether it's a date or I'm just going out with friends or whatever, I should, whether it's my parents, even though I'm a grown adult, or another friend or family member, let them know where I'm going. What time am I planning to go? What time do I plan to be back? Where am I going? Is it a restaurant? Is it a club? You know, what type of location are we going to? So, God forbid, worse than whether it's a rape or worse, if I don't show up the next day, somebody has that information of where I was supposed to be and who I was supposed to be with. So again, you know, if something bad does happen, again, whether it's parents or family or friend, they know some information to start with if they have to go to law enforcement. And that's really important. So many times, as we know, we take things for granted. Oh, I'm probably just, you know, overreacting, probably nothing will happen. But as Deputy Inez is saying, plan ahead of time. What's the worst? Why wouldn't you tell someone where you're going? You know, that's part of the prevention and part of the planning.
Again, when we're talking about telling people where we're going or what we're doing, when our friends come with us and we go out, whether it's on maybe to a party or to a club, even if you have people coming with you, do the same thing. Tell somebody, hey, I'm going out with my friends tonight, and let them know what you're doing or where you're going. We always talk about having a designated driver. Well, one of the responsibilities that is usually not discussed about the designated driver is we're making sure that they don't, obviously that the people I'm with, if I'm the designated driver, they're going to drink, and I'm going to make sure that they don't drive, and I'm going to drive them home. But what about what's happening while you're where you're at? The designated driver is just, again, it's a designated friend who's going to keep an eye on you while you're at what you're doing. If you're at a bar, if you're at a club, if you're at a party, someone's going to keep, if you are that responsible person for the night, so be it. It's your responsibility not just to make sure that they get home without drinking and driving, but that they don't become a victim during the party, during the night at the club, during the night having drinks. They don't have to become the victim if someone's watching out for them. Okay, yes, you've had too much to drink. It's time to go now, before it becomes to a point where our friends, they're obviously not making the intelligent choice that they would normally make. Maybe it's time for you to remove them from that before they drink too much, before they put themselves in those types of situations. When we talk about how we can prevent, discuss with our friends. Hey, we've all gone out, we've all gotten a little more alcohol than we should have. We should have someone watching out for us. And if it's your turn to do that job, make sure it's not just that they're not drinking and driving, but that something else while they're out doesn't happen to them. Any questions? Concerns? Quiet.
Go over this.
Oh, go ahead.
One of our handouts is called Things You Can Say to Help a Friend. And as we talked about in our presentation, guilt, depression, people may be embarrassed to come forward. And I like this handout because, for example, I think some of the things we can say. I believe in you. I'm here to listen, not judge. It's not your fault. You survived, and that's what really matters. It's okay to talk about your feelings as long as you need. I'm here. What do you need from me right now? How can I help you best? And it gives you some scenarios attached with those things to say. In addition, on this flyer, and we also have some posters in the back, one of our local resources is SARS, which stands for Sexual Assault Response Service. It's a 24-hour crisis hotline. That phone number is printed on the bottom of this flyer, but also we have some extra posters if you would like to take one. I know we have some educators and other people from organizations here tonight, but also please take all the other handouts we've provided, because again, it talks about prevention. We have a Dater's Bill of Rights that you can give to your friends or teenagers. And if you do need extra copies, you can always call the Public Safety Office, and we'll be happy to mail out more to you. If you want to add more. And also, I'll just read off the number, too, for the 24-hour crisis line, the SARS number. It's 723-RAPE, and that's actually 723-7273 if you'd like to write that down. Any questions?
More of a comment, looking at the things you can say to help a friend, since I have teenage daughters here, is to let them know that just because they maybe did illegally drink alcohol or took a recreational drug, that it doesn't mean that they won't be believed and that they should still report it, that victims have rights regardless of the circumstances that they were in.
And thank you, that's a really important point, because again, it goes back to that guilt issue, or people feeling that it's their fault. Even if someone does take a drug illegally, like she said, or drinks and they're underage, that doesn't mean that it was okay for the rape to occur or some other type of crime. So it's really important. And again, I have adult friends that I know have self-esteem issues or they make bad choices. So it doesn't matter if it's a teenager or an adult, but make sure you have these conversations with the people you care about. So like she's saying, they know it's okay to come forward. And as we already heard, both from the deputy and our guest from the hospital who does the rape exams, so many times it's underreported, and so much of that is because of the guilt or the fear, and it's really unfortunate. Oh, the microphone. Thank you.
I had a daughter that, when she was 18, she got raped. I didn't know it because she was afraid to tell me because she figured I'd go out and just kick this guy's butt from here to there. She didn't want that to happen. I can't go back and change it. My daughter died when she was 25, so
I'm sorry.
there was a lot of things that happened, but I can't go back and change that. But I got two granddaughters. One's 18. Actually, I got three. One's in Tennessee, but I got two here. One's 18 and one's 24. They're both precious to me. If anything happened to them, yeah, I would go out and kick their butt. I mean, that's just the way I am. I've never been anything but that. I'm not afraid of anybody. I don't care about anything. I'm 64 years old. I don't care. If something happens to me, it doesn't matter. My granddaughters are precious. And I really kind of screwed up with my daughter because she was afraid of me because I was that way. And she was afraid to tell me. And it wasn't until like 5 years later she told my wife. And when I found out, I was just like livid. But at that point, I couldn't do anything. That's why I'm here, because there's got to be something that changes in me too, so that I'm not that person that they can't come to, and they're not afraid to come to me because of what I might do.
Yes.
And I mean, I don't know how to say it any other way, but this is really important. It means a lot more to me than it probably does to a lot of people here, because I want to be there for them. I don't want them to be afraid of me or afraid of what I might do. But they're so precious to me that I would do anything for them. And so that's why I'm here. And I just want to say this is really cool.
Well, thank you for coming and thank you for sharing that with us. And it brings up a I didn't touch on it. Is that support? Is being supportive? And it's, again, making it known ahead of time to your family, your friends, that you are supportive. You are a supportive person, that you are going to be understanding, no matter what the situation may be. It doesn't have to be, okay, I'm going to be understanding in regards to if you're sexually assaulted, if you're raped, I'll be understanding. But I'm not going to be okay with the fact that you told me you went out drinking when you weren't supposed to be, or you went out and went to this party when you told me you were going to be out over there. If you convey to your family and your friends, especially our children, that you will be supportive and understanding about whatever type of situation that they may have gotten themselves into, that you will be there supporting and not going to be judgmental in regards to what they have done is one of the biggest keys. And what we see a lot of times in some of these reports, when we see a delay in notifying the authorities in regards to what has happened, is either one, they didn't think that they were going to be believed, or one of the other big issues was they're going to say, they had it coming. I had it coming. This was my fault. And again, we're looking at someone who's going to be judgmental upon themselves. But if we do these things ahead of time to make our friends and family understand that I'm here for you, it doesn't have to be this. It doesn't have to be, it could be anything. I'm going to be supportive. And you offer that support ahead of time. And have a moment, a short talk with our children and say, you know, sure, you're probably going to get in trouble if you go out and you do something that you weren't supposed to be doing. But I'm still going to be supportive and understanding if something happens. If you need me, I am here for you. And when we look at, types of reporting, a lot of times, right away, we don't want to tell the authorities. We see these things happen. I didn't want to go to the cops. I told my mom, and then my mom called you guys. That's why you guys are here, because I told my mom. Law enforcement, again, when we come out and we take these types of reports or respond to these types of incidents, we are not judgmental. We want to get all the information, and obviously through our investigation we wanted to discover what has happened, and what we in turn do, like we are here today, a little bit of prevention, just a little bit of information to help you along, whether it's through prevention or even afterwards coping and dealing with the type of situation. The number to the SARS is great, 723 rape. What's great about that is it's a place to start. They're very supportive. I've been there and I've worked with the nurses. They're very supportive. They're very understanding. And I think it speaks volumes, at least for them, because they are 100% non-judgmental and support. The support is what we need, and we have to provide that for everybody and all of our friends and family. But one of the biggest things is, especially when we're talking to the people who may be watching at home or watching on our website, is if they have become a victim of rape or sexual assault, is to report it. Report it to the authorities. Let somebody know that something has happened. And for us, family and friends, looking for those key changes in types of behavior. Maybe some of the stuff that I had shown on the screen over there, depression, anxiety, not coping along with others anymore. If there's a change, something may have occurred, and it doesn't have to be a sexual assault or a rape, but it's something that we can watch for. So.
I have a response to this father here who talked about his daughter, and hearing that, I saw the pain in his eyes. And I just want to say that rape doesn't always just not only affect the victim, it affects the family. And the family also has emotional scars from this. The best thing I can say to him as a daddy's girl is that your daughter may have felt that she was afraid of what you would do, even though you're 60-some years old. They don't want to lose you. You're their security. The best thing you can say to your granddaughters is what you just said to us right now. I took it to heart as a woman, and I would take that to her daughter or granddaughter. Exactly what you just said right now. Look in the eye and say, this is how this has affected me. I will not go out and get myself hurt, but I will put that man in jail. I will put that person in jail. I will be there for you. Because your granddaughters want you. They need you. That's how you can change. That's how you can be secure for them. But I'll tell them exactly what you just said, and they will know they can come to you.
Thank you. And in addition to that, too, I would say, because just thinking of my family dynamics, too, growing up and how even, to my grandparents and beyond, if they're not willing to come to you, encourage them and empower them to go to somebody else. It's just like when we're talking to parents about teaching their kids, and I know I keep going back to that as an example, but you want to empower your kids to go to a trusted adult. Those of you that are here from Neighborhood Watch, you've heard us say that before. Empower them and encourage them and let them know that nobody has the right to hurt them, and if they can't come to their mother or father, go to somebody else that they trust. I mean, I'm very close to my mom and dad, but growing up, I wouldn't have gone to them. I would go to my grandma. So there's somebody, so if it's not you, they know that there's somebody else that they can go to. That's very important, and thank you for sharing that as well.
Hold close to your face.
Okay, I would just like to say this is absolutely wonderful. The awareness that we need to get out into our community about rape and a sexual assault, it needs to continue. That awareness needs to just continue on an ongoing basis. But what I'd like to say is I'm actually part of the SARS program through the agency in which I work. And for anyone out there or here that's interested in becoming a part of the SARS program, we are still looking for advocates to join us in fighting this concern that overwhelms our community. So if you're interested in becoming a SARS advocate, you can reach Lisa or Teresa at the SARS office at 949-6143, and you can put yourself on the schedule for the next upcoming 40-hour training. Thank you.
I just want to take the opportunity to say that because the majority of sexual assaults, not just rape, but child molestation, etc., are planned, somebody is either grooming a victim or following a victim, these preventive measures are fabulous. And the majority of the cases we see are involving either drugs or alcohol, usually drugs. But for anybody that does, we do encourage reporting, and hopefully within 120 hours, 5 days typically, because the evidence will be there, and it will only be there that long. So even if they decide at some point after that they don't want to be actively involved in the investigation, the evidence will still be there, and it can be there forever. So I just wanted to encourage people, really just, if it's an acute incident, to show up at the hospital, and they'll get help.
And we appreciate you coming, and we wish we had more people, but hopefully because this is being taped, we'll reach more out in the community. But I appreciate these women being here too, and the work they do, because unfortunately, as we know, just as we've touched on tonight, there's a stigma, and the stigma needs to be changed. So that also makes people not want to come forward. And again, it comes back to the guilt or the shame or the fear that they may feel, and it's unfortunate that our society projects that stigma.
Nope. Any last questions, comments? Okay, great. I'd just like to thank everybody for coming tonight. I will be staying after tonight's presentation for a little while if anybody wants to speak one-on-one or have any other concerns or questions. Again, thank you everybody for coming, and I'm sure we'll see you at the next presentation.
And please make sure to take the handouts if you didn't grab them already, and feel free to take extras. And again, if you need more, and for those that are watching, you can contact the Public Safety Office. Our phone number is 723-6063, and we'll be happy to put more in the mail to you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Please be sure to pass on this information to your family and friends and coworkers.
Many years ago, 10, 15 years ago, our primary industry was aerospace. Today we have a lot of economic diversification. We have RV manufacturers, we have warehouse and distribution facilities, we have large call centers. The countrywide soon to be a B of A is almost 1,300 people working out there. So that economic diversification helps us, as do the commuters. We have about 60,000 people that commute out of this valley every day, and as a government we certainly don't want to encourage that, but in reality those people bring their paychecks back here. So our economy is a lot more resilient today than it's been in a long time.
That's really good news. I would wonder, do you actually go out and solicit businesses to come to our community? Is that part of economic development?
Absolutely. That's the attraction component, and probably receives the majority of our effort. But the good news, too, is that we've had quite a bit of success. And I mentioned to you some of the diversification we've had. Companies like Rexall, Lance Campers, Starwood Hotels, Rite Aid, Michaels, Sigma. That means that now we spend a portion of our time on industry retention. We want to make sure that once a company gets here, they stay here. And what we've really found, and Countrywide would be a good example of that, is once that they get into Lancaster, they like the labor force, they like the business climate, and they go ahead and expand. Countrywide actually doubled its facility, went from 100,000 feet to 200,000. Michaels, out on the city's west side in the Foxfield Industrial Corridor, actually expanded from 435,000 feet up to 750,000 square feet. So
a decade ago, I remember the economist saying we didn't have enough warehouse space. But we've changed that, haven't we?
yes, yeah. We've actually had warehouse and distribution, and we also have what we call spec space, space that was built without a contract, so that small businesses have an opportunity to lease space, or we have a lot of what are called industrial condos where they can go out and actually buy just like a residential condo. We've been discovered by a number of very sophisticated developers out of the LA area. And so we're
What's
really
the attraction? When we look at Lancaster, what attracts businesses up here?
Well, it's a combination of things. It depends on the business. One of the biggest things is the availability of labor. Obviously, because our housing cost is substantially less than the rest of Southern California, you can get affordable labor. I think the government's attitude, I think our city council has done an outstanding job in staying business friendly.
You've got the award, right?
Yes. LAEDC this past year designated us out of the 88 cities in Los Angeles County as the most business-friendly city. And that's a combination of things. Like I mentioned, it starts with the philosophy of the City Council, but it's also shared with all of the staff. We really look and recognize that we're in a very competitive industry. This is nothing we can take for granted, and we know that we have to work hard to keep a strong economy.
But it's an overall culture of the city. It's not just something that happened by accident, that you're the most business-friendly.
Absolutely, and it's something we've worked at for a long time, and it's gratifying to be recognized by our peers, but it's work that will continue forever. I really believe that our constituency are the unemployed or underemployed citizens up here, And if you're hitting that freeway every day, like we mentioned, 60,000 people, then we want to get you a job here, and that's the plan.
Are we making progress to taking commuters off the highway?
Absolutely. All of those companies that I talked to you about, represent that. I had a deal a couple of years ago where we actually attended a anniversary out at Rite Aid, and there was about 1,100 people that worked there. Most of them were there in the cafeteria, and it was neat to sit there and recognize that because of the efforts of the city, there's 1,100 people that have health insurance benefits and that don't have to jump on that freeway every day. And I'm sure they don't understand why all that happened, but we do, and we want to replicate it.
And it's a huge quality of life issue, getting off that freeway. It really is. Your title as the Economic Development Director, but also redevelopment, which is another huge issue here. Can you talk about what's going on in redevelopment?
Sure. Redevelopment is actually simply defined as making the sick part of the city well. And as the city grows and ages, we have blight that exists in the community, and the Redevelopment Agency was specifically created back in 1978 to look at that blight and fix it. And in conjunction with our housing and neighborhood revitalization group, we've had a lot of activity and efforts. The downtown revitalization, the council recently approved a downtown new specific plan. I think you're going to see very, very good things there. We have a new museum and art gallery that's going to take over where the old Wells Fargo Bank was. We have an outfit called U-Wink, which is a kind of a youth-oriented restaurant that will provide recreational opportunities. It's tied to computers. With the planning department, we've adopted what's called a new form-based code, and it's different than conventional zoning in that it thinks kind of three-dimensionally and looks at what buildings will look at when you drive by and look at them, and actually will favor higher density. The density, the artist lofts that are under construction now will be about 5 stories, and much of it will be the higher level.
So a lot of the downtown revitalization will it be funded through redevelopment funds?
Yes, it's a combination of funding. The housing folks have good money for the more dense housing, but we participate with tax increment financing, and we have a deal coming up that the high school district is actually going to sell us a part of where the old museum was, and that's allowing us to create this new museum art gallery. We work with the property owners in what are known as owner participation agreements, and we have a new facade improvement program, which will be money available to fix up the front of the buildings, because we really think this opportunity to revitalize our central core is a tourism opportunity. If you had 50 restaurants in the downtown of the ilk of, say, Lemon Leaf, we really believe that it'd be something that people would come up from L.A. for the day.
I totally agree.
So that's what we're looking at.
Great. You are a busy person. Thank you so much for your efforts. It's good to hear good news, even though everywhere else it seems like we're hearing the sky is falling, but Lancaster's sky is looking positively clear.
Yes, it is.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
You've been listening to Vern Lawson, the city's Director of Economic Development and Redevelopment, and this is the Lancaster Outlook. great works of art are something Southern California residents have really grown accustomed to, especially with the Getty right there down in Los Angeles. But you don't have to drive down below in order to see some really excellent pieces of work right here at the Lancaster Museum Art Gallery. There are just tremendous pieces of artwork done by local artists. And here to tell us more about it is the museum's curator, Nicholas West. Great display you have. Tell me about this particular exhibit.
This exhibit is our 24th annual juried all-media art exhibition. What we do is send out calls for artists to submit up to 3 works each, and then we have a judge come up from Los Angeles to jury the show. And she selected about 107 works for this show, representing 83 artists out of over 500 submissions that we had.
So are we talking about all local artists here?
Yeah, we're talking about Antelope Valley artists. Also, we've included areas in the Santa Clarita Valley as well as Tehachapi.
This is just one exhibit. Tell me about what the museum displays throughout the year.
We have a wide range of exhibitions. We also operate the Western Hotel, and that is where we keep our local historical artifacts. So we have several exhibits pertaining to Lancaster and Antelope Valley history there. The Museum Art Gallery has a semi-permanent display of dinosaur fossils and also Egyptian artifacts. Those are under construction at the moment. But we dedicate most of the space to rotating exhibitions. So we've had everything from a giant dinosaur exhibition to experimental photography to featuring local artists to bringing up more well-known artists from the LA area as well.
We should note that you're kind of new to the region. I think you came to us in the middle of 2008, but as a museum curator for us here in Lancaster, but we stole you from the Getty.
Yes, you did. I was at the Getty Villa in Malibu for a while. I was in the antiquities department there and worked on some of the temporary exhibitions that they had coming through there, as well as the permanent display of ancient artifacts.
What we're looking at right now is a lot of work actually from children. That just surprises me that this work is from youngsters under 18.
That's right. I'm very impressed with it, too. We had many submissions from kids under 18, and the juror had an especially hard time choosing the works that you see on the wall here. They're all very, very talented, and there's quite an age range. The lowest, or the youngest person we had submit was age 2.
Maybe another Rembrandt will come from Lancaster. Who knows, right? I have to ask, the museum has been here for a long time, and yet it's going to get a new home.
That's right. The museum first opened its doors in 1986. We are looking into a new facility on Lancaster Boulevard downtown at Lancaster and Elm, and we're exploring different architects to build us a really nice new iconic museum building, and it's going to be very exciting. The intent is to double our exhibition space, have brand new facilities that we can use to really propel the museum to that next level and to bring more great art to the Antelope Valley.
Come show me a little bit more of the museum. When you talk about bringing great art to the Antelope Valley, is it difficult to bring exhibitors up to this region? We are a little bit more remotely located.
We're remotely located, but there's a great wealth of potential here. As you can see from the art hanging on the walls, there are local artists who have a great deal of talent. What we need, obviously, are the facilities in order to bring more well-known national, international artists to the area. So with the new museum, part of what we're doing is building a facility that will accommodate more loans from other institutions, from galleries, in Los Angeles and beyond.
What do you have to do in order to secure these types of loans? You have to, I'm sure, offer a certain amount of security for things that might be priceless items.
Yeah, that's right. Security is paramount. So anytime you're thinking about a loan from another institution, they need to be assured that the work is going to be safe. And so we have to have good climate control systems, good security, good visuals on all the art. We have to hang it properly, which we do already, but everybody, they require a lot of assurance in that regard.
It's amazing. When I look around this room, it really surprises me that we're looking at so much wonderful artwork. Do you think that residents in the Valley know what's at their disposal, that they can come here?
I hope they do. We had a reception where we had over 400 attendees on Friday, and everybody seemed to have a great time, and we're working very hard on getting the word out on the museum that this is a place where residents can experience art, they can experience history, and experience education as well. We have several programs that we do in conjunction with each exhibition, some geared towards children and families, and some workshops and seminars that are geared more towards an adult audience.
So it's okay then to bring the children here with the family. You're not worried about children running around the museum?
No, of course. This is
Wait, not running. Did I say running? Not running.
Yeah, we don't want them running around, but we do want them coming in to experience what a museum has to offer. Now, one of the things we do for those kids that can't make it is we go out to the schools with a traveling museum trunk program. So we have several trunks based on different themes. We have Antelope Valley pioneers, we have Native Americans, Ice Age mammals, dinosaurs, aerospace. We take these traveling museums out to the schools so that if school children can't make it here, because schools never have a budget for transportation, we go to them. And so we bring a museum experience to them. And we're hoping that in time that will come back to us, and that these kids who have been exposed will become museum patrons.
One last question to you. We know that this will go on through March, this particular exhibit, but what happens after March? What can we look forward to?
Well, our next exhibition after this one is the annual high school show. So it's another 24th annual something. So it's the Antelope Valley Union High School District show, and it features works by high school students, and it's going to be a stunning show as well. And in the future, we have a few things on the line. We have a few more local artists that we're working with to put together exhibitions that will take us through the summer. And then we're looking at other options for the remainder of the year.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Good luck with this show. We'll look forward to seeing what you can present to us in the future. Thank you very much. All right, folks in Lancaster, here you go. It doesn't get better than this. Come on down to the Lancaster Museum Art Gallery. It's on Sierra Highway, right near Lancaster Boulevard. You've got to check it out. It's just wonderful. Welcome to the Lancaster Outlook. I'm Wendy Williams. Revitalization efforts are now underway in the downtown area. Everyone can expect some great changes to come to the downtown within the next decade. And to talk about that is Brian Luedeke, the city's planning director. And it really is on everyone's minds. The downtown area is getting a lot more than just a facelift. Tell us about it.
Well, I think it's exciting to see what's happening in downtown. Downtown for a long time has been an important part of the city, and it's been an important concern to the city and to the residents. I think that's the reason that you have seen the library move back downtown, the city work to get the sheriff's department downtown, of course the Lancaster Performing Arts Center, and even back when the city was early in its incorporation time, there was a debate over where City Hall ought to go, and it was finally determined that downtown was the appropriate location. But I think for many years Lancaster's downtown was seen primarily as a financial and cultural center. And I think what we've seen now, particularly as a result of hearing from our citizens through the Downtown Lancaster Specific Plan effort, is that they want to see a downtown that is truly a community center, a place that's more of a 24-hour time, a place where there are opportunities for living, residential living, opportunities for entertainment, opportunities for some retail, dining, along with the cultural and financial.
A fun place to go hang out as well.
Yes, that's right.
Now, you mentioned that you talked to groups. There were focus groups in on this. How much input did you get from the community?
We got quite a bit. We heard from downtown business owners. We heard from downtown property owners. They're not always the same people. We heard from people who've just been leaders in the community for a long time about what was important to them. What did they see downtown Lancaster as? And it was amazing the amount of emotional attachment that people have to downtown and their real desire to say, we want a center to our community. We want to make sure that our historic center doesn't die. But it's also important to note that what we heard is that the types of amenities that we're talking about bringing into downtown Lancaster, which is the same type of mix that you see, say, in Old Town Pasadena or on the 3rd Street Promenade in Santa Monica, are the types of amenities that what we call kind of the creative class are looking for, the people who come to your community, choose your community because of the living environment, and bring with them their economic power, their ability to create new jobs, their ability to drive economic well-being within the community. So downtown is about more than just, hey, it's a fun place to be, and I remember being here when I was a kid. It's really an important, vital part of the city's future, both economically as well as culturally.
Okay, so if you were to give a summary on the vision, what do you see?
We're going to have a downtown where people can live, work, play, and enjoy it all within a walkable area that doesn't require them driving everywhere.
Now, I hear it's kind of geared towards seniors. Is that a truth?
That is not really the truth. Seniors are certainly a component of our downtown area. They've been certainly important in the revitalization effort so far. But I think what we heard from our residents and what we in the city are working to do is to make sure that it's a great mix of people that we have, a diversity of population, if you will. Young people want the same kinds of amenities downtown that people who are older want. A place to meet their friends, a place to hang out, a place to enjoy something different, or really, say, hey, where's the heart and soul of the community? Where can I go and see my neighbors?
Well, you're getting me so excited. I want to go there this weekend. But I have a feeling it's not right around the corner. What is the time frame?
It's going to take a number of years to get to that point, but you already see the beginnings of it happening. We have currently under construction artist lofts within the downtown area, hoping to attract that creative class that we were talking about. You've begun to see restaurants re-enter the downtown area. I'm amazed by the reaction that places like the Lemon Leaf have had with our downtown revitalization. People who are saying, hey, I never thought I'd come to downtown, but now I come there for that purpose. One of the other things that we are really trying to do through our specific plan effort is mix the uses more, to have more than just one reason to come downtown for people. We heard from a lot of people who said, oh, I love to come downtown for a performance at LPAC, or I come down because my bank is there, or I come because my children need to go to the library, or I need to go. What we really want to do is give people the reason to come here and say, hey, I have 3 or 4 things that I want to do. I can do them all downtown and then meet somebody for dinner later, and then go to the LPAC and enjoy a performance.
Now, you're doing well with the hard job. You've taken all of the input from the community, and then it's time to come up with a plan. And now we have this Lancaster-specific plan. Is that basically laying out what we envision to happen? What is that specific plan about?
That specific plan has a vision in it that says this is what the community wants to see, but it also contains within it what's known as a form-based code, an important component that we think will retain downtown's unique identity. It allows for the mixing of uses that we don't see in other parts of the city. It allows and requires, in fact, that the buildings meet a certain requirement as far as location, placement, size, so that we make sure the environment that we create is the one that people want to come to, walk around, enjoy, and feel comfortable in.
And in fact, if you didn't have a specific plan, it might not then be in compliance with the general plan.
Well, that's very true also. The general plan certainly speaks to the role of downtown Lancaster in the greater community as a whole, and we want to make sure that we're carrying out that part of the community's vision.
Now, the general plan, just kind of to switch topics quickly here, the general plan we have had in place for a very long time, but we're in the process of updating it. What's the status of that?
Well, currently we are going through hearings on that with our Planning Commission. We have done, over the past couple of years, an extensive amount of outreach. We've gone into the community, we've held community meetings, we've invited people to participate via the website for the general plan. trying to understand what people think are important issues and what we want and what they want to see in the future as a part of their community. And we've been very successful in identifying, we think, the important components of that, and have managed to even lay in front of people the idea of, as you look at the future that you want for your community, what are you prepared to do to make sure that you get it? In other words, this kind of a trade-off issue, as we call it.
What do you mean? When you say trade-offs, when it comes to the general plan, you know, the idea of do we expand, do we crowd, there's got to be a lot of different options that you have to look at, and you have to weigh and measure trade-offs.
Yes, you do. And we've asked our General Plan Citizens Advisory Committee, when they did their work, to weigh those kinds of things. We said there are many different ways to accommodate what we think is going to be the future population of this area. You can spread it out in a very low-density pattern. You can concentrate it very tightly. But in each one of those options, there are benefits and costs. For example, if you spread population way out, you certainly have the advantage of giving people perhaps a very semi-rural type environment to live in. A lot of people may enjoy that. But at the same time, over the long term, they may pay much higher in the way of costs to maintain infrastructure, or just in driving time from getting from one place to the other. Conversely, if you compact that, you may be very good on infrastructure costs and the ability for people to walk places instead of driving, but they may not like the living environment that's created. So it's really the time when you go through a general plan revision effort like we are, where the city has to make the big choices, if you will. What direction are we going to go? Recognizing that as we head along the road, we're going to make different little tweaks and changes to deal with situations that come up.
Your hands are full.
Very much so.
Thank you for all of the information.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brian Luedeke. He's the city's planning director. And this is the Lancaster Outlook.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. You know, I really don't believe that I can. I believe that we can. It really is going to be us that changes things and makes it so. You know, I like the motivational speaker, but I didn't agree with her. Things really are bad, and we shouldn't forget that, because a crisis is a terrible thing to waste. You know, and I mean that totally sincerely. We are now on the threshold of being able to have an excuse to change everything we do, to improve every single thing we do. We are now motivated to do that. You know, and those of us who don't are going to regret it. Those of us who do are going to achieve exactly what she was talking about. You know, Congressman McCarthy's here, and several years ago he gave me a reading list of books to read, and changed my life, because it's all about the knowledge that is available to us today is so exponentially greater than just 20 years ago that there is absolutely no excuse for us to not make this really the most wonderful place in the world to live. And in a few minutes, I'm going to tell you a little bit about how we're going to do that. If we go back to the slide. You know, in just 11 months, we've dropped crime 28%. And what I mean by that is if you take the last quarter of 2008 and compare it to the last quarter of 2007, there was a 28% drop. Now, are we going to be able to maintain that and improve that? I don't know. I think so. I think it's actually going to get better, because we've only used 3 or 4 new ideas that are in the arsenal. You know, so much more is yet to come. Imagine that accomplishment. Nowhere else in the world has that occurred. We have actually taken new ideas, creative ideas, innovative ways of thinking, and done something no one else has done in 11 months. That's truly a phenomenal, to me, example of things yet to come. One of the things we're really proud of right now, how many of our redevelopment staff are here? Could you stand up from Lancaster? They're led by Vern Lawson. These guys have done the most creative thing I have seen in my entire life, and they did it in a matter of months. You know, it's no secret, we're out of money. You know, I mean, taxes have dropped, the state's stealing it. I don't know what Kevin's going to do to us. But cities, they're sucking the money out of. And so it's a bad situation. And in spite of that, they have put their heads together, come up with totally creative ideas to partner with businesses in Lancaster and bring in another $110 million. And that's a conservative estimate of what's coming. And we did it by recognizing the days of the city being something separate from the business community are over. We have to come together. We have to be partners with our business community because we need each other to survive. We need each other to feed the hardworking families that live in this community. And so I met with the auto dealers just a couple days ago. And that's kind of interesting, too. You know, those of you who are local have heard the stories of me and Mike Johnson. Now, Mike Johnson's here, and Mike Johnson and I are working together in ways we never dreamed we would. Where's Mike? Stand up, Mike. I can't see. Oh, there he is. There he is. Mike has led the Ford dealership and the Mercury dealership now for over 25 years. And for the first time, the city and the auto dealers have recognized we need to be partners in how we take care of a business in this town. And so what we're doing is starting today, if you buy a car, you go to a local auto dealer, the registration is essentially free because you get for the first month you get a rain check, meaning in April you actually get the gift card. You get a gift card that will be honored at most merchants in Lancaster. So you get free registration by buying your car in Lancaster. Now, why would Lancaster do that? Because we live off the sales tax. I think that what we're going to see, and I think they think also, is we're going to see a flood of sales coming out of Lancaster because of what happens when the city partners with business. What does that do for the rest of the merchants in town is it drives business back into Lancaster. Next year, my biggest goal I have for the city, well, no, it's not the biggest. It's one of them. Where did she go, the motivational speaker? She gave me a new idea for a commission. We're going to start a giggle commission, and I'll talk about that in a minute. You know, if I were to go to Singapore and start a business today, I'd have to go get a permit. One permit. And I could be up and running in 48 hours. Do you know how long it takes to start a business in LA County? You know how much just the city, the paperwork you have to go through? We're going to get rid of that paperwork. You guys don't know this yet? There is no reason in the world that we get buried by the paperwork every time we want to start a business. That's going to be the next big goal. The Shop for Cops program is what started, and Harry Engel was the one who started that, and we kind of stole it from him and ran with it because it's such a great idea, is all of that money that comes from sales tax goes into public safety. It really is Shop for Cops. And I think all the people that live in Lancaster need to recognize that. If you want to fund law enforcement, if you want to be safe, make the pledge. Do not shop anywhere if you can avoid it other than Lancaster. Meaning if Lancaster has the product, commit to buying it here. If we don't, then we buy it someplace else. And finally, I want to talk to you about e-solar. This is a fascinating story. There was a guy named Bill Gross, grew up in an orphanage in Encino, and then, when he was in high school, developed a solar collector that he was selling in Popular Mechanics. That's how he paid for his college. What a solar collector he developed. He then got into software, developed search engines, did stuff with Lotus, an incredibly brilliant guy. And he's one of those guys that became a dot-com billionaire that we read about. But he's passionate about the things he does. And what he's done is he said, that's not enough. It's not about the money. It's about saving the world. Because if we don't get a handle on this global warming situation, and if we don't find a way to get renewable energy, it really could be a life-threatening event for the entire globe. It's certainly going to change the way we live, and it's not going to change it for the better. And so this guy got all of his friends that were super smart. Some he went to Caltech with, some he met at Stanford, some he met at MIT. And the guys he pulled together are also incredibly rich, incredibly smart. And they left the fields they're in to come work on this problem. And one of them is Wayne Stevens. Wayne Stevens is one of the most fascinating people. You know, I love being mayor. I absolutely love it. I can't wait to get up in the morning for it. And one of the reasons is I get to meet guys like this. I never would have met him otherwise. He started his own company called Tesla, that if you want to do natural gas in a car, you go to Wayne Stevens. He's the guy. He knows all about it. But he came over to do e-solar. And you realize a year ago, e-solar didn't exist? Talk about moving things quickly, getting rid of the paperwork. A year ago, they didn't exist. Next month, we're going to light the first plant. By the time we're done, in the city of Lancaster, we will produce more electricity than the Hoover Dam. Think about that. And it's all renewable. You're not going to light up one piece of coal to do it. You're not going to light 1 liter of natural gas to do it. It all comes from the sun, more than the Hoover Dam. And so what is that going to bring to Lancaster? We will be the energy capital of the world in a very short period of time. But e-solar has brought us something much more than that. They've taught us how to be totally innovative. When Wayne took me out there to show me the plant, you know what he talked about? All the things they're going to do better next time. He said we could do those towers better, we may be able to not do them at all the things he could do better next time. And it got me thinking, every day that guy wakes up, he's thinking about how to do it better next time. In Lancaster, that really is the rule of thumb now. Every day, the people that are thriving in the city government are the ones saying, how can we do it better next time? So you guys want to know how we're going to do it better next time on this event? We'll never buy another table in Lancaster again. We should be sitting out with everybody. How many companies have a table here? How many have your people sitting with everyone else networking? That's why we came here, was to network. Never buy another table again. Buy 30 tickets and sit at 30 different tables. And the reason I bring that up is that's an example of how we have to start thinking. Every day, we had better start thinking of how are we going to do it better. And when we do, Lancaster will escape this economic crisis. I have no doubt about it.
Good evening. It's now 6 p.m. and the special meeting of the Lancaster Planning Commission is now in session. Mr. Berkey will offer the invocation. Mr. Irvin will lead us in the pledge. Please stand.
Let's pray. Father, we're so thankful, Lord, for your goodness. We're thankful, Lord, that you have given us a great land here in this place, a great city, a great area, and then just a great citizen population, Lord. I pray, Father, that you'd bless this meeting tonight, give us wisdom from on high. Lord, I pray that we'd work together as planners and as staff and as citizens, Lord, to make this as good a place as possible and have your wisdom in it. We pray your will would be done, and we'll be sure to give you the honor and the glory for all that's done. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Okay, thank you. Could we have the roll call, please?
Commissioners Larry Berkey,
Here.
Jonathan Irvin,
Here.
Dana Haycock, here. Dan Jacobs,
Here.
Vice Chair Sandy Smith,
Here.
Chairman James Vose,
Here.
Commissioner Raj Mali, absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you. And Mr. Molly rang in and indicated he was under the weather tonight, so we wish him well and a speedy recovery. Public business from the floor. If an individual is unable to stay through the entire meeting due to extenuating circumstances, a total of 10 minutes is provided at this time, during which input may be given regarding agenda items. Any person who would like to address the Planning Commission is requested to complete a speaker's card for the recording secretary. Individual speakers are limited to 2 minutes on the early one. Do we have any speakers cards for the early?
We do. I don't know that any of them requested early, however.
Okay.
I think they're looking for later in the agenda.
Okay. No early speakers? All right, thank you. Purpose of tonight's meeting, the Planning Commission will review staff's recommendations for the general plan land use map and may choose to make modifications to it. This process will represent the beginning of the Planning Commission's formulation of its ultimate recommendation for the general plan update program. We will have presentations from staff. Mr. Ludicky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The bulk of the presentation will be given by Mr. Ledbetter.
Thank you, Chairman Bose, members of the Commission. Tonight, what we'd like to do is give you a detailed overview of staff's recommendation for the general plan land use map. Before we do that, we wanted to go over with you a number of materials, revised materials that have been submitted for you tonight for your consideration. First of all is a revised copy of the addendum to the June 2008 draft policy, general plan policy document. The revisions are those contained in green. Everything that's in black lettering was originally submitted to you, I believe, back in February, at your February 2nd meeting. And you can see from the length of this document that it's grown considerably. And the reason for that is that we have included, at least as far as we can, the comments that we have received from the Planning Commission during your review of the draft document. This also reflects a review by the General Plan Consultant, RBF, and includes modifications based on their comments and review of the document. So I think that what we're presenting here in this revised version to you will improve the content of the policy document. We were not planning to entertain, you certainly are welcome to discuss any element of it you'd like. We weren't entertaining on taking any action on this particular item tonight. We still have some outstanding issues that we need to address regarding the policy document. So we were really submitting this for your review and to give you some time to look through the information, and we'll bring it back at a later meeting. Also included in your packet is a revised addendum to the land use alternatives, and this is something that I believe we also introduced to you first during your early February meeting, and I will go through this as part of the graphic presentation tonight, but generally this contains additional geographic information that staff is suggesting adding to the general plan map, but I will go through that in detail for you as we get into the presentation. And then also we have updated the request summaries letter summary log. The one that we have before you tonight supersedes the earlier versions that we gave you, and this is the latest version. It does not include one letter. We received one letter a couple of days back, additional letter. We have submitted a copy of that to you. That's from FA-DF Investment Fund 8 LLC. Staff has not had the opportunity to really review and discuss that correspondence, so it is not at this point included in the request letter summary log. We will add that at a later date.
That's from LADF Investments Fund 8 LLC. So let me ask you then, the dated March 23rd, is that any different than what we received by email on Friday?
No, it is not. This is precisely what you received.
All right, thank you. Please proceed.
Now, what I'd like to do now is go into give you, just read into the record a verbal description of staff's recommendation for the general plan land use map. And it really consists at this point of three components. The first component of that land use recommendation, and this is contained in the March 23rd memorandum that staff submitted to the Planning Commission with the materials. The first component of that recommendation consists of the Group B land use requests that are contained in the request letter summary log dated March 23rd, 2009. Staff is either accepted or is recommending as we receive that request, or we have further recommended modifications to that request. But essentially, it's Group B of the request letters log, and then the second component consists of certain requests from Group C. These consist of C1, C2, C13, C19A, and C31 of Group C, modified as staff has recommended. And finally, the staff's recommendation for the general plan land use map consists of the modifications contained in the revised addendum to the land use alternatives dated March 23, 2009, which we're going to go through first when I give you the graphic presentation. And that's what I'd like to do now is just go through that. And what I'd like to do is give you a detailed point-by-point review of the changes that staff is recommending to the General Plan Citizens Advisory Committee Preferred Plan, because that's what we used as the base on which to build our recommendation for the land use map. So what I have for you first is...
That's what will be under tab 3 in our binder, right?
Tab 3 contains the...
what you just discussed.
Yes, tab 3 contains this addendum to the land use alternatives. And then the request letters log is contained in tab 5.
Okay. What you just mentioned was a modification noted in the revised addendum to the land use alternative dated March 23rd, which falls under tab 3.
Right.
Okay. And then the previous one falls under tab 5, just so we're straight on our agenda and we know what we've got and where it is. So without, are there any objections to the methodology that you propose. Okay, please proceed.
And then we have added specific plan overlays to certain areas of the map. So that you'll see that on the staff recommendation. There are some specific plan overlays. In some cases, we've removed one that's no longer needed. So that was the purpose of this. And with regard to this and the next slide, this one and this one, this is really the public use designation for the general plan, the public use category. And this is the open space category for the general plan. When you look on the general plan, you have a green identifier, but you really have 3 subcategories under that: park, cemetery, and open space. So we thought to improve the readability of the map, those should be identified. So what we'd have now, we have not included those yet, but we will. We will put those on the recommendation before it goes for your approval. But I just want to clarify that the reason we're putting these identifiers on is all one land use category, but there's 3 subcategories under that, and we thought putting letter identifiers would help that. Same thing here. The public designation is really divided between public and school, so we're going to add a letter that clarifies where those are located. This is one of the specific plan areas where we removed a specific plan overlay. It's really not needed in this area. It's designated non-urban. We cleaned up the prime desert woodland identifier.
David, could you back up since there's nothing on number 9? Number 9?
Yes.
Since there's no street identifiers on it, where is that?
That is, that's 90th, or not 90th, it's 70th? Yeah. 70th and G, I believe, isn't it?
It's the half section actually of 70th and Avenue I. It's northeast of that intersection. It's an area that, for reasons unknown, was included in the Foxfield specific plan, but it's never been designated as industrial by the city. It's actually occupied by rural residential type use, but there isn't a real reason to have a specific plan designation on it. That's the reason we're recommending a removal of that on that particular half section.
So you're saying it's 70th West and Avenue I?
I think it's actually H. Avenue H. Yeah,
H?
70th H. The 70th West and Avenue H.
North.
And it's the
west corner.
Northeast corner of 70th and H.
Northeast?
Yes, northeast corner.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And then just cleaning up the legend, we're removing some of the identifiers that were really not necessary within the legend. They were in an earlier version of the map. And then just reducing the width of the boundary so that you can see the underlying. In some cases, land uses were being hidden by the width of the boundary, the city boundary, so we're reducing the size of the boundary. Items like that, aligning the center line of the freeway so that's clearer.
You want to back up to 13 and tell us what the streets are? I believe it's 40th East, right, going north and south?
Yeah, that's 40th Street East, and that's about Avenue J8, I think. J8 and 40th Street East. It's the northeast corner of J8 and 40th Street East.
And the next one is 30th Street and what? What's East-West Street?
That is, that's 30th Street and Avenue L. 30th Street and Avenue L.
30th what, east or west?
East and Avenue L. We'll put those corrections on so that that's clear. And just labeling the railroad. The railroad wasn't currently on the map. And then other types of identifiers, correcting the size of Apollo Park it's shown incorrectly, those types of things. More geographic identifiers. And that's really what we're doing with the addendum. Now, what I'd like to get into, and what we've done, let me explain the way we're going to do this. We have divided the city into 6 sections, and we're comparing on the left-hand side the GPAC preferred plan, and on the right side with staff's recommendation. I apologize for the color variation. We're running into problems with that with the digital map. Hopefully the copies, hopefully I'll point out if you have any questions or any problems reading it, let me know. But there is some color variation between the 2 maps, and we apologize for that.
David, we do not have this exhibit in that form. We have it in a citywide form, right?
Yes, you do.
Okay, but we don't have it in that particular format.
We can provide that for you if you'd like to have that.
But we don't have it tonight. Okay.
I'm going to go through it side by side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through side by side on each of these sections and point out to you where the changes occurred. On this particular section of the city, which is basically 80th Street west to 110th Street west, and from Avenue J down to Avenue M, really the only modification between the GPAC preferred plan and the staff recommendation is that we have added a specific plan overlay that covers generally the area from Avenue L to Avenue M and from 80th Street west to 110th Street west. And I wanted to point out something about this is that the underlying land use densities, we're making no recommendations to change the densities. We're simply applying a specific plan overlay. So there's no, the same underlying the non-urban, the urban residential, the commercial, it all remains the same. All that's being done is a specific plan overlay has been added to the staff recommendation. And that's the only modification in that area between the 2 maps. Okay, I'm going to just step through starting from the upper left-hand corner and just going right through mile by mile and showing you where the changes are. The first change between the 2 maps is right here. We've added an 80-acre school site, and actually that's within the county, but this is some of the correspondence that we received from the school district to add this 80-acre site into the recommendation, so we have done that at this location, which is 70th West, north side of Avenue I. Then we have, based on this, I believe this is item C2, we've recommended mixed use for 80 acres within this area. It was urban residential under the GPAC preferred plan. We're changing that to mixed use, recommending a change to mixed use. At this location right here, there's a 5-acre piece. There's actually a 10-acre parcel that's split. It's 2 parcels. It's split by the zoning right along here. So we've added in 5 acres. We're recommending adding 5 acres or increasing the MR1 designation by 5 acres to eliminate that split zoning that exists there now. We're recommending the addition of 330 acres going from non-urban under the GPAC preferred plan to urban residential under the staff recommendation in this area. That basically is a half square mile. The only change that we recommend here is, we're keeping the same 20 acres of commercial, 20 acres of MR1 that is shown on the GPAC preferred plan, but just shifting those so that the commercial, actually, the length of the commercial is along Avenue J, rather than along 50th Street West as shown on the GPAC preferred plan.
recommending the addition of 20 acres of commercial for the southwest corner of Avenue K and 70th Street West. We've added a specific plan overlay for this portion of this square mile here. It's about 3/4 of a square mile. And that is all of the changes that staff is recommending for this area of the city.
Before you proceed, there may be some questions.
Okay.
From anyone? No? All right, thank you, sir.
I'm sorry, did you have questions? Okay. And then for Central Lancaster, essentially the area from Division to 40th Street West and from Avenue H to Avenue M, we're proposing the following changes.
David, I'm going to interrupt
Yes.
you. If you would go back to the previous slide, maybe it's just a visual that I picked up. 40th West and Avenue I, southwest corner. Do you show any modification there?
Yes, right on the southwest corner,
Yeah, southwest.
right here? No.
Okay.
This is actually on the other side of the 40th. That'll be on the next one.
It's an
Yeah, there's no modifications there.
Hey, Dave, I had a question about 70th and K. What was the reason for that change to commercial? What is it?
You want to elaborate on that?
No, 70th West and
Avenue
K.
K.
The southwest corner at that location. It was really looking at whether there ought to be some provision made for commercial out in that along the 70th Street corridor, given the fact that there's a specific plan in progress on the other side of the street that did not incorporate into it commercial within that area at this time. We took a look at whether or not it might be appropriate to provide for that serving commercial on the west side of 70th, with the caveat, and it's noted in the backup letter, that was not to be used as a justification for urban density or urban residential extension westward from 70th.
I had a question on the same subject. In other successive locations, the justification for not considering commercial was that the surrounding land uses were urban, non-urban, I should say, or rural, if you will, which seems to be the case in this particular location, north, west, and south, right? So when we get to those items where staff has recommended that commercial not be considered because the non-urban surrounds it, I want to come back to this. Okay.
Sure.
Okay, in this area, beginning here, we're recommending the modifying this area, which is commercial under the GPAC preferred plan, and we're recommending a change to mixed use at that location, and that's Avenue I, just south of Avenue I on 20th Street West. And that is it's about 26 acres side. And then we've cleaned this up so it's a little bit easier to read. We're showing the downtown specific plan in the crosshatch, and then the dark boundary is the Transit Village District overlay. It's very difficult to read under the former map. And then at this location here, we're showing a change. We're recommending a change in this area along the north side of Avenue J between 17th Street West and 15th Street West. We're recommending that be changed to office professional. And then there's a little bit over 6-acre cluster of parcels right here that were inadvertently designated as a hospital under the former general plan update, and we're recommending changing that to office professional to better fit those uses at that location. As I mentioned, we've cleaned up the Prime Desert Woodland overlay. This little parcel right here was formerly UR, and we're recommending office professional on that site. It's situated in a location. You have commercial here, and I believe here is a daycare center or a Pinecrest school, so it seems to lend itself, it's vacant at the moment, seems to lend itself to an office professional use. Then it's getting really kind of, there's a little parcel right here at the at what would be K8 and 20th Street West. It's on the west side of 20th Street West, and it is comprised of about around an acre, and it is currently urban residential, but we believe and agree with the request that it be changed to moderate density residential. And then there's another small change just south of there, right in this area here, a very similar type of request. Well, let me back up. I'm sorry, I've got just a little bit confused. Let me back up to that former site. This one here is actually recommending, office professional. That's right, office professional from UR. The one down here would be the MR1. They're very similar size sites, around an acre. And then at the southeast corner of Avenue L and 40th Street West, this comprises about 10 acres from NU to commercial. Recommending commercial designation here. And then at the on the northwest corner of 20th Street West and Avenue M, a very small parcel that's currently designated NU. The applicant was requesting a commercial designation. Staff believes a better use for that would be office professional. That's what we're recommending. And that's all of the changes that are contained in this portion of the general plan of the staff recommendation.
The last one you spoke about was approximately a half-acre gross.
Right, it's very small. Yeah, it's
for office professional. Okay.
Yeah, that's staff's recommendation. It seemed that it was better use than putting for a commercial, because with commercial, you're also limited to the types of uses you're going to get with a commercial site.
Or leave it the way it is.
That's an option. And this is what we call the east side. Takes in Avenue H to Avenue M, down in this area here. It's down to Avenue M. And from 40th Street East to Division.
And recommending modifying a small parcel here consisting of about 3.5 acres right in this area right here, from urban residential to MR1, moderate density residential. And then right in here, this was formerly UR, our urban residential. We're recommending moderate density residential at that location also. That's about 27 acres. 27 acres. It was actually a combined of UR and a small, about a 2-acre light industrial site. We're recommending modifying that to, changing that to all to MR1. And then school site here. Recommending a mixed-use designation for this area along Division Street, south of Lancaster Boulevard. It's currently MR1, but changing that to mixed use because of its proximity to the downtown area. And then recommending a 10-acre commercial site at the northwest corner of 30th Street East and Avenue J. That was UR, changed to commercial. Another school site here, and another school site here. Converting this, which was a former school site, a 10-acre school site here, back to urban residential UR designation at that. That's at the avenue, that would be Avenue J8 and 40th Street East. And then down in this area here, which is 15th Street East, and basically K4, down to about K12, I believe. It's a 60-acre area here that we're recommending changing to urban residential. Formerly was on the GPAC preferred plan was non-urban. And that is all of the changes, staff recommendations for this area of the map.
Any questions for now? All right.
And then what we call the Del Sur area. This is from Avenue E, Avenue J, and from 70th Street West to 110th Street West. And really just a couple of changes here. The GPAC preferred plan had recommending modifying these two areas here. They're 40-acre areas to non-urban from they were originally urban residential. We're recommending leaving those as urban residential under the staff recommendation. And then the only other changes in this area would be the addition of another school site on the West Side School District, and then a site here, which I think I brought up before, the site here at I and 70th Street West. And that's all of the changes in that area of the general plan. And then the only other one I had, we've already pointed this out, the removal of the specific plan area along this location here. And there's about 31 changes altogether. And what I wanted to do, just to wrap this up before I turn it back to the commission, is show you in the chart that I have here what those changes are comprised of numerically. And what this shows is every general plan designation on the general plan map, with the exception of specific plan, because we're not really changing any land use densities with the specific plan changes that we added in. It shows the acres that were added under the staff recommendation and the acres that were subtracted. In other words, if they went from one land use to another land use, it changed the amount of overall available acreage within that particular land use designation. So the first column shows acres added. The second column shows acres subtracted. And you see that the bottom tally, total acres that were affected were 794, which is a little over a square mile. And then the fourth column shows the net increase or decrease. Notice the one with parentheses would be a decrease, and then the other numbers would be an increase in that particular land use category under the staff recommendation. And the final column shows the number of acres that would be added to the urbanizing area. Okay, so we're talking about the addition of 545 acres to the urbanizing area that are not currently designated as part of the urbanizing area. And I've done just a couple of quick calculations on these numbers before the meeting. There is one mistake I wanted to point out here. Right here, this is not correct. There was no change in open space at all. This actually belonged up under public uses. So that I don't believe that should be there at all. These are all zero.
David, this is only staff's recommendation to the preferred alternative plan.
Yes, this reflects those changes. Okay. In other words, the ones I just went over with you, these are those changes shown numerically.
You also have a chart for us on the preferred plan as it relates to the existing general plan?
I don't have that tonight. We can put that together. We can do that.
A lot of trouble?
No. Okay. No, I just wanted, since the preferred plan was the GPAC recommendation, the preferred plan is the base that staff used to create our recommendation.
I understand that, but as a point of reference to the existing general plan,
sure,
that may be of interest to some people.
There's no problem. We can
make
put
a
that
determination of because mixed use is not in here, right? Or is it? MU?
Yes, at the bottom. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. And just very briefly, and then I'll conclude. The increase in the urbanizing area, the 545 acres, represents about 0.83 miles of a gross square mile. And when you take in the entire urbanizing area, that represents about 1.4 increase that we're recommending in the urbanizing area overall. The 794 acres, which equals about 1.2 square miles total, that's all of the changes we're proposing. When you take in all the incorporated city, 94 square miles, is about 1.3% of the overall area. So the recommendations we're making are fairly minor with regard to the overall general plan. And that wraps up my presentation, and we'll be happy to entertain any questions that you have.
Thank you, David. Any questions? Before we begin our own deliberations, I think it would be appropriate to hear what public testimony there may be, as that may affect what we may or may not have to say. So, since this is a noticed public hearing, the hearing is open and we have speaker cards.
Okay, in the order received, Mr. Chairman, the first is Todd Elliott.
Welcome, Mr. Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Todd Elliott, and I'm a resident of the city of Los Angeles, and I appreciate the opportunity to address the commission this evening. We've been monitoring closely the general plan update in the city of Lancaster. I do represent Josh White, who is, with his partners, the owners of one site that is on the list of proposed changes. It's B18. The staff is recommending mixed use, and we do concur with the staff's recommendation. I just wanted to emphasize this evening how important we think the mixed-use designation is to the future of Lancaster. We think it will provide a wonderful forward-thinking way of developing a small number, 140 acres in the city, and also provide a little bit of opportunity for growth outside of the core of the city, which is the preferred land use alternative. So we wanted to, in sum, say that we certainly appreciate staff's hard work and support their recommendation, particularly in relation to the mixed-use development locations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Owen. Next speaker.
I will have trouble with this last name, but Imad Abjuada.
Welcome, sir.
Good evening. My name is Imad Abujauda. I am here representing Mr. Ben Sayani of AV Land LLC, and I would like to support staff recommendation for the land use change for the commercial site on 70th and K. And we would like to kindly request that the Planning Commission reconsiders the land use change that my client requested to commercial for the northwest corner of 40th and Avenue K. Thank you.
That's it? Do you know the number of that one?
40th and K, I don't think was shown on that.
It's a C number, isn't it?
It's, Mr. Chairman, C4B.
C4B.
Yes.
Okay. Just so we know, make sure we know where. C4B. Thank you, sir.
Joan Delamati.
Good evening and welcome.
How do you do? My name is Joan Delamont. I live in the area between Avenue H and I, and it's become sort of a thing with me over the last 10 years since I moved back into Lancaster that some of the speed limits, particularly between Avenue H and I, and in the area of Mariposa School and the proposed area of the Whit-Carter Park, are out of context for the type of traffic that we have in that area for school. It is presently 50 miles an hour right through the school crossing. Over the years, I have been campaigning to get this changed, and I have. From 55 miles, it's been lowered to 50 miles an hour. However, I still think that this is out of range for the type of traffic that we have with foot traffic from schools, and also in that area are some nursing homes who have wheelchair patients. Now, when I started researching this, I was attracted to the articles in the newspaper over the last month or so regarding the changes that you people are considering. And when I called, there seems to be some confusion in City Hall whether a person calling should call the city planners or the city council. So being that this was in confusion, I contacted the mayor and the city council, and I was informed by the person that I talked to over the telephone that you are interchangeable. Some of you people are on the city council, and certainly my letter would get attention by addressing it to the city council, and that you would address any of these concerns. And so that's why I'm here, because I'm a loudmouth. And when I've got a cause, I follow through on it and hope that I can get some attention to it. And I have heard back from the mayor, who happens to be out of town. I heard from his office. I also heard from the city council, and I've been getting more papers in the mail encouraging me to attend these meetings. So now I would sure like to have somebody do something. So that's all I've got on my mind. And hopefully the traffic will be a concern. And also, according to the news articles, even though you are addressing certain inner city areas, there is no mention in the newspaper about school areas and any consideration for altering the speed limits, which are also out of whack in some of those areas. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Delmont. Just for your information, the City Council sets speed limits in the city. The Planning Commission does not. However, the Planning Commission does approve land uses which potentially could impact speed limits, I suppose. But speed limit setting is not within the purview of this group. But we do appreciate your comments, and thank you for being here, and you're more than welcome anytime.
Well, mostly, the persons that I've spoken to on the phone keep saying that your persons are involved in both areas.
Well, ma'am,
and because of the
I don't want to get into an argument with you, but the Planning Commission does not set speed limits. Okay, the City Council does, and if you have a concern about it, I would suggest you contact Mr. Bozian, who is the city manager, and I'm sure he can direct you to the right department. And if you can't find him, Mr. Ludicky, I'm sure, would be able to help you out.
I've started with some of these people over the years. Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you.
Paul Jennings.
Mr. Jennings. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Vos and the rest of the commissioners. My name is Paul Jennings. I live on the west side of Lancaster, and I had a concern about the map that we showed earlier on the western side of, it was the last slide before the Central Commission that showed the area in the Avenue K and West 60th, yes, that one. In the northwest corner of that intersection of West 60th and K, it shows a red square there, or rectangular. And my interpretation is that that is commercial. Is that correct or not?
Yes, that is the recommendation that came from the GPAC, and staff did not alter that recommendation in any way.
It's my understanding that that is R7000. That's where the old golf course used to be, Meadowlark Golf Course. And it's R7000 at this point.
Yeah, your question was, is it proposed to be a commercial land use designation, and in fact it is. What it was previously, I would have to look. Mr. Ludicky may know.
Yeah, let me speak to, because I think Mr. Jennings raises an issue that I want to be clear on from how staff, well, both the GPAC and staff approached some of the issue on the west side commercial requests. The General Plan Citizens Advisory Committee did vote to recommend that corner they thought was appropriate for commercial. They did not take a position one way or the other on the other project site, L and 60th, the northwest corner of that. Staff basically did not recommend any change or any difference between what the GPAC had recommended, recognizing that 60th and K and 60th and L are tracking on separate general plan amendment requests. Those are going to be dealt with individually in full public hearings, unlike, quite frankly, the majority of the rest of the proposed designations. So I would not read necessarily a whole lot into either of those corners from staff's perspective, because those are going to be subject to separate hearings and process.
All right. Hope that answers your question. Go ahead if you have something more to say, sir.
Well, it looks like it's already a presumed fact that it's going to change to commercial, and we object to that.
All right. You have an objection. Please don't presume anything, because no action has been taken by this commission.
Okay, thank you.
Jason Zink.
Mr. Zink, welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner. Basically, I just did a little thing because I wanted to put my input into the general plan. And you see the map, and it pretty much shows the sites and everything, and what I believe is the right way and the common sense thing to do. There's several of them, and they're all common sense to change. I really got upset, though, on the Sands Hotel when they were not denied to go to expand their hotel business because of the MU zoning. I don't think that's right. I think that's anti-business, not friendly to people that live and work here and who's been here. Also, the commercial site on 15th Street West and Avenue L, the corner there, for the life of me, I'll never understand why that was never zoned commercial a long time ago. I just don't understand it. It's in the center of Lancaster, in the heart of it. So that's another one. Another one is on L and 30th Street West, which is right across from Stater Brothers and Vince's Pasta. You have R10,000 right next to Walgreens, and then you have R10,000, and then you got this 1 or 2 houses per acre zoning on Avenue L. That should change to R10,000. The Prime Desert Woodlands, which a 28-acre site that was owned by Fieldstone, I think. I believe that shouldn't be urbanized. That should be non-urbanized. It's the last site, significant ecological area in Lancaster for Prime Desert Woodlands, and that needs to be preserved. If you walk that trail, which I think I saw your picture on the Valley Press, Ms. Smith, was it you? Maybe it was a council member. Maybe it was. Oh, it could have been. But if you walk that trail, if you could imagine houses being right there, it would totally ruin the whole experience of that whole park. Everything must be done to preserve that land, that last piece of land. Also, number 8 you'll see up here, I'd like to see that industrial area zoned to multi-use, because I believe the main reasons our regional commercial areas suffered was because we never put apartments in high density around regional commercial centers. That's why the mall's hurting today. That's why Lancaster Marketplace is hurting, because you don't have these high density places around the regional commercial centers. And there's already too much industrial in Lancaster anyway. Also, I'd like to see H8 being considered for Highway 138. I think it's a natural. I think you guys should work on it and put that in your head. And also on 6, you'll see on the east side where it's zoned non-urban, it should be urbanized. If you drive over there and look over there, you can see that it should be an urban area. It's the 2 houses per acre just doesn't make sense. If you drive over there, you can see that. And also number 10, you got R7000, but it's right in the center of the path of the Foxfield corridor. The Foxfield Airport.
Your time has expired, Mr. Zink.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, and we did receive a copy of your correspondence, so we have that for our perusal. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Albert Praw.
Mr. Praw.
Chairman Bose, members of the Commission, my name is Albert Praw. I'm the CEO of Landstone Communities, and I'm here on behalf of Lancaster Highlands, which is the property within the area shown between 80th and 110th Street West and L and M. We concur with the staff's recommendation that the property be designated specific plan in the general plan update. And I would like to thank the staff for its hard work and recognition that a specific plan is the best way to address and accomplish the goals that are identified in the general plan update. And while I won't presume anything to the advice of the chairman, we look forward to the opportunity of submitting a specific plan, working with the constituencies within the city, and providing something of great pride to the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Any further speaker cards?
I have no other cards, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you.
Excuse me.
We do.
Chad Stadnicki.
What was the name, sir?
Chad Stadnicki.
Stadnicki. Welcome, sir.
Good evening. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak to you. I represent LADF Land Fund, which is the letter that was sent to the city a little bit late. I apologize, but we are the owners of 170 acres at the intersection of 75th Street West and Avenue L. And our proposal is essentially to develop a mini master plan for our site, which would include the residential uses which are already allowed under the urban residential land uses, or urban residential land use. But we also feel that by incorporating some park space and other amenities, we feel that the site could also benefit from having some commercial use on the site. And we would appreciate the opportunity to work with the staff to have them assess the proposal and assess if it's something that should be included in your process or not. And that's what we'd like your input on.
All right, thank you very much. And I don't know if you were here when staff gave their report on this particular item. How, in brief, staff will evaluate it and come back to us with a recommendation.
Okay.
So,
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more speakers?
No other cards.
All right, thank you. If you'd come to the podium, and if you have a question, you should have asked it before, sir. But I didn't close the public hearing, so ask your question.
It's clarification. When I spoke like I rather than my group that I represent the Save Our Neighborhood at West 60th and K.
Right.
And we have a large group, and I was just speaking for that whole group.
We understood that, sir.
Okay,
You've been before us before, and we appreciate your comments. Thank you, sir. Okay, no further speakers? Anything more from staff?
No.
All right, thank you. It'd be appropriate then to close the public hearing.
Excuse me. There is one thing that Mr. Ledbetter noted to me, and I just want to clarify. At the last meeting, there was a question raised regarding the overflight area.
Yes.
On Air Force Plant 42. As you noted, or Mr. Ledbetter noted in his presentation, a portion of that, one particular site within that, we have recommended go from its non-urban to urban residential. Let me make sure that the commission is clear what we're doing. We did a couple of things in response to commission questions on that issue. Number one, we contacted Air Force Plant 42. We did, in fact, have an initial meeting with Lieutenant Colonel Hurdle and one of his other associates out there. The other thing we did was we went back and looked at the original documentation and land use documentation regarding the overflight area and how it was adopted back in the mid-90s. In doing that, we discovered that the one area that we have recommended to you go from non-urban to urban was in fact designated urban residential to begin with. It for some reason, at some point, that little notch was taken back out of that urban designation. We've recommended for a number of reasons, not the least of which is, an easier to deal with development pattern, that you go back to that original pattern and redesignate that over to 15th East as urban residential. On the larger issue of the overflight area, the Air Force stated, and they are now contacting what they know as their community planning people at Wright-Patterson in Ohio. They expected that it would take a couple of weeks to get that information to them and receive a response. When we receive that back, we will notify you as to what they have to say about the overflight area in general from their perspective. So at this point in time, we've made no changes in any of our recommendations, awaiting their information for that location.
So we're tuned into the communications we have under tab 5. You're talking about the C-26 pending Air Force consultation. And B-8A is changed back to what it's always been, urban residential.
Correct.
All right, very good.